I didn't know what was happening, but I just felt this sense of clarity. It all became clear that everything that I had done up until that point in my life to pursue love was a big mistake, a mistake on my part, right? Because I needed to have love within, is what the speaker was telling me. I needed to love myself before I could expect love from the world. It's the story you're telling yourself. And so I want you to stop and ask this question. The most pivotal question you can probably ask yourself, and it's, who is telling this story? You might think, me, I'm the one telling the story. No. You're hearing it. You might be sharing it with other people, but who is telling the story? In other words, who's driving the story? Is it fear or is it truth?
I'm Art Blanchford, and this is Life in Transition. Welcome back to the Life in the Transition podcast. I'm really excited to have a new friend. We're just making plans to meet in person here shortly. But new friend, Steve Gallegos, who is an educator and guide and is on a mission to help people break free from their limiting beliefs, rewrite their stories, and live a life that they never thought was possible. He believes in the power of leaving no one behind, a mindset forged as a Marine, and in lifting each other up. So, Steve, I loved our introduction conversation. I'm really excited to connect with you in person here in about 10 days. And most welcome to the Life in Transition podcast.
Art, thank you so much for, number one, producing this show and making it available for your audience worldwide. They can learn not only from me, but you've had some amazing, amazing people and amazing stories. And that's what's fascinating, is that it's these stories that connect us, right? It's that, I did that, or I thought of doing that, or I went through that, or I almost went through that, and we can relate to each other and connect it. And build friendships and those kinds of connections, which to me are super important. So I'm so grateful for you. And yeah, I'm excited to meet you here personally in a few days as you roll through Colorado.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited too. And it was interesting just to share. And I didn't even think about this. I have this Ironman Maryland shirt on, the only full Ironman I've done. And to know that you're best friends with the founder of Ironman, is a neat connection when you talk about connections and how stories are connected. And then last week, I was at Chip Connolly's Modern Elder Academy doing Radical Transformation, a class taught by Stacy Peralta, who is a founder of skateboarding in the U.S. as well. Or godfather. I shouldn't say founder, but he's the godfather, the one that discovered Tony Hawk and all these guys that were really made the grade of skateboarding. But Chip was on this podcast a while back, and it was so great last week to make that connection in person and be at his class in Baja. And it's amazing, the stories. And when we have a mission to help others, like your mission is, to be connected ourselves and to help others, life is a continually unfolding adventure.
Indeed it is. And it can be. And that's really all, I'm sure that we'll get into it, but at the bottom, at the end of the day, it's about the connections, it's about the relationship, and it's about the experiences that we have and how I can bring value to you and your audience, even though I don't know half of the multi-million audience members that you have out there listening to this. But if what I say during this program can impact in a positive manner one, or let's say two people, that's exciting. That's exciting.
No, it really is. It really is. It's, building community, helping each other grow. I got to do that firsthand, face-to-face with this great, incredible group of sweet 20 people that I was going through this workshop with in Baja last week. And it's amazing to see when we put ourselves out there, when we allow to make connections, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable,
right,
to create safe spaces by our own vulnerability, by how we show up in truth and make it a sacred space. It's really amazing what happens and how much fun life can be when we do that.
Absolutely.
So super excited. I've felt that vibe since I first talked to you. I'm looking forward to meet you. And jumping in, you also, Steve, have an incredibly interesting story. And I'm really curious what resonates with you right now as like a really important or impactful transition that you've been through in your own life.
And that's the joy of living, right? It's that a lot of us don't realize that we go through transitions that are impactful until many years down the road, we kind of look back and we get wiser, more experience under our belts, and we go, wow, that's, or where I'm at, or what I've been through, or my transformation, how I've progressed, what I've achieved, what I've accomplished, would not have been possible but for that meeting, that event, that situation, that drama, that struggle, that challenge, that pain, right? But we don't see it in the moment. And it's not until many years later sometimes that it reveals itself to show us just how, again, we're talking about connection, not only the connection between human beings, but how we are connected with the universe and the whole, with Mother Nature and just the planet, this beautiful planet that we share. So to answer your question, it's a great question. I've had multiple transitions that I consider important, some more than others, and some of them have yet to reveal their importance. Right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I won't know this. I'll go, oh man, I was talking to Art about that, but man, so far I think that my most important, because the one that started it all was when I was standing on the edge of ending my life, believing I was a throwaway teenager, right? Because that's what I had been programmed to believe, and take note in the word I just used, programmed, because until the age of 7, we are all programmed by our environment, mainly our parents, our siblings, our adults before the age of 7 that we engage with, shape our lives, shape our thoughts, shape our reactions.
Absolutely.
And how we relate to the world, right? And so if we grow up in an environment that's abusive, like I did, I was physically, mentally abused as a child, as a lot of people are. And
unfortunately, that's true.
It is unfortunate. And I didn't know this till years later. I didn't realize it till years later. While I'm in it, I'm asking.
Yeah, well, of course, you don't know that's what it is when you're in it. That's just your childhood.
I'm in it and I'm asking why. Why was I born? Why am I such a loser? Why is my life so shitty and all this stuff? And it wasn't until years later that I realized, well, it's your programming, and you were programmed by people that believed this is the way that you raise children. This is the way you express love. So it's not that my parents didn't love me. It's that they had their own view, perverted as it is, or awkward, or awkward, or whatever you want to use. It was their view of, this is how I show love. I throw my kid down the stairs and then say, I'm sorry, but it was their anger, their upbringing, and it turns out that they lived this too. And so,
hurt people. Right?
Exactly. And so I'm grateful for that experience, because had it not been for me doing that, I wouldn't have been able to live the life and to achieve the things and to focus on making the changes in the world that I've been able to make as a result of having been through that experience.
So take us back to that point, Steve, when you're how old were you when you're deciding whether or not to throw away your life, your what you thought your wasted or useless teenage life?
It was between the ages of it. I thought about it all through my childhood, here and there, but I didn't take action on that until the ages of 16, 17. Because this is the time that we're transitioning into what we call adulthood, right? Leaving high school, getting ready to leave into high school, and then going out on our own, right? Soon to turn 18. What am I going to do? Where was I going to end up? I have a funny story. In high school, the end of junior year, beginning of senior year, I don't remember quite exactly, but this is when all of our friends, classmates, were starting to receive their acceptance letters to the colleges that they had applied to.
Right.
And, I remember one of my friends came up to me and, showed me that they had been accepted to Berkeley. And she said, where are you going? And I just kind of put my head down. I said, I don't know, probably jail. But I had an accent at the time. So she said, Yale. Oh, what a good school. Good for you. Right. Um, but I had no promise of going to Yale. I hadn't applied. I didn't even know what Yale was. So actually, I thought maybe it was a key because
Right. Yeah. The
my house
locks,
key
right?
said
The
Yale
Yale.
on them.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. Yeah.
A key to get out of jail. Yeah. So I said jail, but with my accent, she thought I said Yale. And so, I didn't know. So I tried several times, trying to end my life. I'd go home after school, run up to my bedroom and go into my closet and get this, my good friend, dry cleaner bag that had seen years and years, months and months of use, where I would sit down on my bed, wrap it around my head, and see how long it would take for me to asphyxiate. But every time I did that, Art, I just had this knowing inside. I didn't know what it was, but it was a certain feeling inside, that kind of a voice that said, no, this isn't, don't do this. This isn't, it's not what's in store for you. There's more in store for you. And again, I couldn't pinpoint like, aha, there's something more for me. Yay. Or I didn't run down the street saying, woohoo, I'm saved. No, it wasn't any of that. It was just like, okay, don't do this. So I didn't.
It wasn't really even going towards something else. It was just, don't do this because there's something else.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so,
and how many times, Steve, how many times do you think you had that experience where you're sitting there thinking, maybe I'll throw away my life with I loved how you said my friend, the dry cleaner bag.
Yeah. It
makes me think of Mr. Otto.
It was, I want to say that, I didn't count them certainly, but it's more than 12.
Wow.
Between the ages of 16 and 17.
So this went on for a long time. And then it was prevalent. It wasn't just one spike. It was prevalent.
No. It was, I thought about this long and hard for a long, long time. I remember talking to my girlfriend about it, my girlfriend in high school. And she was the daughter of a preacher. He was a pastor. And so they had good books in their house that we didn't have. Hey, but we had the whole set of the Encyclopedia Britannica. That was exciting. At the time, that was like our version of Google is now.
Hey, you're laughing. I just sold one of those in an estate sale last week.
Did you really?
So.
I bet you got a pretty penny for it too, because those things are worth some money.
Someone actually did want to pay a fair amount for the dictionaries, but the encyclopedia is not so much,
Yeah. So she gave me a book to read called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And for anybody that has read that book, it's a pretty in-depth, not necessarily scientific, but to my 17-year-old loser, good-for-nothing mind that I thought I was, I didn't understand this concept of positive thinking, right? Hey, sunshine today, be happy kind of nonsense. But in it, I read 7 words that changed my life. And these were the 7 words that catapulted my transition. And those 7 words are change your thoughts and change your world. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't know it was possible to change your thoughts, right? Is that a thing, really? But I did know that I could change my world. And my relationship to that concept was having run away from home before as a kid. And I experienced new people, new environments. I remember running away to the home of one of my school friends. And I saw how Leave It to Beaver type environments really do exist, because there was love in that family. Right. They did things that were not pleasing to their parents now and then, but I didn't see anybody kick down the stairs or get hit with a frying pan, right? There was talking and let's sit down and talk about this and why and understanding and compassion. I didn't know those words, but I just knew that felt completely different than what would happen to me if I was at home and I did whatever it is that my friend did. And so it happened that his dad was a lieutenant in the Chicago police force. This was in Chicago at the time. And, the mom was a stay-at-home mom. They had like 5 kids. He was my best friend in school. And so we got to be really good friends and really good friends with all members of his family. And I just loved being there. And so when I would run away from home, that's where I would run away.
Right.
So anyway, so I'm reading these words and I go, I can change my world. It means run away, go away,
Right.
leave.
Right.
And so at that point, though, at 17 years of age, I decided to run away. And I took my life, as I like to say. I took my life, but in a different way. I took my life. Essentially, I took my life and I gave it over to the United States Marine Corps. And it was during boot camp, and again, not expected. There were three other recruits in boot camp that were primarily Spanish speaking, who were having struggle with the academic portion of the training. A lot of people don't know this, but the Marines is very heavy on the academics. If you don't pass that portion of the training, you're out. It doesn't matter how big, how bad, how fast, how strong, how well you can shoot or take down 100 enemy combatants at once or anything like that. None of that matters. It's all about the academics. So nobody asked me, nobody suggested it, nobody recommended, nobody ordered me, but I decided to take it upon myself to mentor these guys. And at night, when everybody else had gone to sleep, the four of us would wake up, go sit on the cold, wet, musty tile floor of the showers in South Carolina. There, you being from the South,
Paris
you know
Island,
how, Paris Island,
the humidity and
humid, musty, sand fleas, all that stuff. So you can imagine what it was like in the showers, even though it was clean because we were forced to clean it very well. Yeah. But it was still musty and And so we would sit there and I would translate that day's materials from English to Spanish and we would have a discussion. So I knew that they understood it. About 2 weeks into this experience, we're in the process of our training and we hear this commotion, this yelling, this cussing. The on-duty drill instructor had got up for some reason and he heard voices coming from the bathroom. Now, 2:30 in the morning, Art, you're a Marine drill instructor. You hear voices coming from the bathroom.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
We got a bunch of not allows going on in here.
Not allows doing some non allowable things, right? So he rushes in thinking, I'm going to
catch someone in the act.
I'm going to have a field day with these boys. And he sees us sitting there, but by the time I pick my heart up off the floor, put it back in my chest, and stand up and explain what we were doing, he looks at us like, "Really? I'm not going to get to eat these sheep for dinner?" Okay, carry on, he says. And so, fast forward to the end of the 13-week boot camp, I score the highest in the class. My three friends score in the top 10. I'm awarded the position of valedictorian. It's called the Bootcamp Honorman, which is civilian equivalent of a valedictorian for those that don't know the military. And I was given my first rank to private first class and the beautiful Marine dress blue uniform, all because of what I did to help these three other individuals, right? And even the drill instructor didn't say, "Hey, carry on, and if you do well, you're going to win this." No, it wasn't about that. I just kept doing it because I felt the calling that I need to help them, and I can help them because I was the only other one that spoke Spanish well enough to guide them through. So that was my first realization that the things that I was programmed to believe about myself, being worthless, good for nothing, throwaway, teen, was a lie, number one. And number two, that I did have value that I could offer to the world.
Nice.
Right? I hadn't aspired to be a teacher, a guide, or a mentor or anything, but it just said, okay, I have some skills and I can offer to the world. So
I want to add something here too to your story.
Yes.
Maybe you've made this connection, maybe you haven't. The best way to learn is to teach.
Indeed.
So probably your valedictorian status came from your big heart to help others, because in teaching that, you also mastered the subject yourself.
Absolutely.
So it comes, besides the huge lesson of learning, you have some intrinsic value, which is huge. You also had direct benefit during that time as well, even though, of course, that's not why you're doing it.
Correct.
But it does benefit you as well to do the good work.
Indeed. And that's what led to my philosophy, my life's philosophy that has carried me through. Kind of dovetails with the leave no person behind, but it's I achieved my dreams helping others achieve theirs. Meaning, if I take my eyes off myself, help other people get what they want. And I didn't know Zig Ziglar at the time.
Right.
But he had coined the help other people get enough other people get what they want and you'll get what you want. Mine was a little bit different, but I didn't know Zig. But it doesn't matter because all of these principles that I'm talking about, the ones that you teach in the programs that you have for your men, that you teach in your book, none of this is brand new stuff. It's been with us since the dawn of man, right? But we just become awakened to it through these processes of facing challenges, being saddled with struggle and pain and all of these negative or bad things that happen to us. That's when we start looking, right? And we're talking about transition here. Transition is all about becoming aware, right? Becoming awakened to the fact that who we are, what we're living, what we're experiencing is not all there is. Right? Whether we view ourselves as successful or we view ourselves as unsuccessful, or we haven't achieved what we wanted or we have achieved what we wanted, there's always more, right? There's always more that you can give. There's always more that you can learn, which is why in the personal development world, I really, it irks me to hear people talk about, I'll help you live to your potential and you should strive to live to your potential. No, you know why, Art? And I'm sure that you're aware of this, but for the sake of your audience, because potential is the maximum. That's it. There's no more, there's nothing beyond potential. And so if you reach your potential when you're 21 years of age, guess what? There's nothing more for you to learn.
Well, and it's also such a misnomer in the sense that reaching your potential assumes that life is supposed to be like the picture I get, is that then life is always up and to the right? You're climbing this mountain and you're just climbing and climbing and you're getting the next promotion, you're getting the next accolade, right? That's not the way it is. Life is climbing one mountain, coming down, going to find another one. Oh, this one, no, this isn't right. It's a continual learning and evolving process. I think your comment about awareness was so good. Like, can we increase our awareness? Can we increase our presence?
Yeah.
And that's not always up and to the right. Maybe that's coming down. Maybe that's, going in the dark, cold water in the cave that we want to avoid.
Exactly.
That's going to be the thing that can increase our presence so that we can build relationship, be with others in a better way, help others in a better way.
Exactly. Right? And that's the adventurer in you, right?
Yes. Yeah. I had this shift in my late 40s, early 50s that was, I woke up literally a lot at 3 o'clock in the morning, like stressing out, And 3 o'clock in the morning, I was like, life is not some grand monument to be built. It's an unfolding adventure to be experienced. It's a very different approach. This thing about living up to our potential is about building a monument. Like, how can we maximize and how can we don't even know what that means. Right. It's how can we be aware? How can we experience? How can we develop the gifts, I say, that God's given us so that we can give them back? Exactly. Right. And so on that note, what I like to say is expand your capacity. Yes, I love that. Yeah. Because you can always expand, learn more, do more, be more, give more. Yeah. Right? You're expanding yourself. You're making yourself bigger, not in a physical sense as in, from 180 to 400 pounds, but in terms of your impact on the world and how the world sees you and how you see the world and how you're able to serve others in the world, right? Expand your capacity. If you feel that your capacity is limited now because of money, education, your marriage, your sex, the color of your skin, whatever, right? However we view ourselves being limited, right? That's our capacity. I can't because. Right. This is all I can do because. This is all I have because, right? We can always expand. And so if you just focus on expanding your capacity, you can do the best you can today and be so happy, yet it's so far from reaching this potential place that we don't even know what that looks like, right? Because I don't think anybody has or should want to reach the potential, because to me that's the end of the story. This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by Midlife Transition Mastery. If you have reached midlife and you are successful, you have checked all the boxes, you've done everything you thought you should do, and especially pleasing everybody else, doing what you think everyone else needs you to do, but you still feel like something's missing, like you're coming up empty, feeling alone, feeling misguided or lost. Midlife Transition Mastery Explorer community is for you. Here we will build authentic community. We will learn about the 8 steps to mastering midlife transition. And we will learn and execute living life with no regrets in our second half. Please check out the community on lifeintransition.online/MLTM, Midlife Transition Mastery. And I look forward to seeing you around the fire in this community. Yeah. And I think it's so important, like also the process of this process of expanding, this process of learning is what also keeps us motivated and what keeps us being useful to others, right? And it's difficult to learn new things that are difficult. It's difficult. And that's good. Right. Because we like challenges and we like to expand and we like to learn, you know, and it's really important that we keep that growth mindset, right? Instead of this fixed mindset, right? And so I think that's, I never heard it that way about not reaching your potential because it's really expanding who you are. Right. So this obviously, so in the Marines, you found some intrinsic value. You found that your life was not worth throwing away, that you could do something worthwhile. How did that unfold? So that was a few years ago now, because you look like you're about my age. So how did that unfold? Like, what were the other lessons that you learned from that transition that expanded you at the time? And how did that unfold in your life?
How long is this show? Because there's a lot.
Pick one of the threads. Pick one of the threads, maybe, and let's run it. And the show could go as long as it wants to. It's an authentic conversation, right? I haven't looked at my schedule this afternoon, but it's
nice. And I'm glad you said threads, because they are threads. And I didn't realize I was on this journey to become a personal development guide and communications trainer until about 2007, 2008, right? Now, up to that point, I had already lived multiple careers as a U.S. Marine. From the Marines, I went into law enforcement almost immediately. I did have a stint as an Arthur Murray dance instructor in between that time.
Great. Yeah. Probably the only person that was a Marine, Arthur Miller dance instructor, and then law enforcement. Exactly.
And into law, and throughout all this, I'm pursuing a singing career. I had aspirations to become the modern day Julio Iglesias, and that was because when I was a kid, I said I was programmed to believe I was good for nothing, etc. All of which was true, but there was one thing, Art, that I could do where the world stopped and applauded, and that was when I opened my mouth to sing. And so as a kid...
When did you first come to recognize that?
Probably at about 4 or 5 years of age.
Okay. So this was quite wrong. So even in the turmoil of growing up, this was a place where you brought joy to others and you brought clarity to yourself, in a sense.
A little bit. It was confusing because I could do nothing to please my parents, if you will, except when I opened my mouth to sing. I remember many times my mother this was back in the day before smartphones and internet and all this stuff, right? And so my mom would frequently have tea with the neighbor ladies. And so she would call over the neighbor ladies. They'd have tea in the house. They'd be, conversing. And all of a sudden I'd hear a call, hey, come down and sing for Mrs. So-and-so. So I'd go down. At times I felt like that little circus monkey,
wind up
and saying, hey, perform, and then go back to your room, kind of. But I was like at this Pavlov dog that I looked for the opportunity to sing, right? Sing. Why? Because I got respect, I got admiration, and I got applause. And to me, that equated with love.
Sure.
And so in my young mind, I decided, well, the way to get love in the world is you become a singer. And you go on stage and people love you and they scream for more and they clap and they applaud and they yell, "Yay, you," and all this stuff. And so I set my sights early on to become a superstar international recording artist, and I modeled after Julio Iglesias. And it was, that's also part of the journey, the transformative journey. It wasn't until I became an entertainment lawyer.
Okay, so there's a connection there on that thread.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All for the purpose of advancing my own personal career as a singer.
Okay.
Right? While I'm in law enforcement, I'm in Santa Barbara, California, working in the courts. And the judge that I worked for is a former entertainer himself.
Okay.
He and I became friends. He kind of became my mentor. And he said, "You know what? You should go to law school. Not only do you have the capacity, but lawyers run the industry. So as a lawyer, you can open doors that you could never open as a million-and-one singer-songwriter."
Right.
I thought, what a great idea. I'll become a lawyer, pursue my music career, and I can wear Armani suits.
Right.
I was
Perfect.
in, baby. That signed me up for that all day long. So I did. So I left law enforcement, went to law school, not because I wanted to save the world, although I ended up doing a lot of that, so that I could be on the inside of the music industry. And as a lot of your listeners will recognize when I share this story is, remember Dorothy in the Land of Oz, when she, the Tin Man, Lion, Scarecrow, and Toto arrive finally at the Land of Oz, and the puppy pulls back the curtain, and then Dorothy pulls back the curtain, and what do we see? We see Oz, right, pulling levers, making smoke, creating noise, all this stuff. That's what Hollywood became to me, right? This big, just facade. Very abusive, very negative environment. And so I went through some stuff. I wrote about it in my current book. A bunch of my clients went through some stuff that we couldn't even bring out into the world because they thought that they would be blacklisted and never work in this industry again. And much of that was true at the time. But we're seeing the result of all that now, the fallout, right, of the Harvey Weinsteins, the Me Too movement,
Absolutely.
Puff Daddy and all these other individuals that are, now dealing with the results of their behaviors.
Yes.
But it goes much deeper than those two individuals. They're just like on the surface of it. This has been going on for years and years and years. So I had to come to this realization: why do I want to be in this industry that is so negative and so abusive and so hurts so many people and so painful? And this is when I went really deep inside and I learned, Art, that I didn't want to be the next Julio Iglesias for the sake of fame or money or anything like that. I learned that what I was after was love.
Yes.
And that was my incorrect way of believing that that's how you got it.
You could earn it. That's how you could earn love.
Yeah. And I did remember so many times I was confused because I would be on stage performing and, I would have a great show. Audience was magnificent. They would applaud. They would clap, encore after encore. And then when the lights went down, I was all by myself again, thinking I was a loser, no good. Waiting for my next fix, if you will. Right.
The next dopamine hit.
Exactly. The next opportunity to be in the limelight for approval, for validation. And so fast forward to 2008, and here's the big transformation. I've now left the practice of law temporarily because I'm back in it now. I left Los Angeles altogether. I reinvented myself in Dallas, Texas as a commercial photographer.
Oh, interesting.
That was my next interest, right? My next passion. So I thought, well, if making it as a singer-songwriter and being a superstar performer isn't in the cards for me, is no longer what I want, hey, photographers create works of art. They're remembered for long after they're gone from this earth, and their works of art hang in homes like Art Blanchford's, right? You can see behind Art, there's a beautiful photo that somebody took. Do you know whose
that is? Do you know whose
Yours?
That is? No, it's not mine. This is the backyard of the photographer, actually. It's his backyard.
Oh.
in
No,
Idaho. It's Thomas
don't.
Mangelson, if you say
Thomas Mangelson, yes.
Yeah.
I love his work.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the first coffee books I ever bought was Thomas Mangelson. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So the way that you honor Thomas Mangelson, right? I thought, whoa, 100, 200 years from now, my photos will be in a restaurant somewhere. Somebody will be sitting in a booth and go, whoa, look at that photo. That's
immortality.
Really cool. Exactly,
and
exactly.
What do you want from immortality? You want love. You want to be remembered.
Exactly. So I hadn't arrived at the point where I connected this whole pursuit of what I wanted to do and be, that I was chasing love. So I left singing thinking, I don't want to chase love that way. I want to chase it another way,
right.
A healthier way.
But you didn't recognize that at the time, or did you?
I did.
Okay. So you had the realization, it's like, okay, the reason I'm doing this thing is because I want approval. I want to earn approval. I want to earn admiration, which I equate to being loved from
Correct.
the way I was raised.
Correct.
And it doesn't seem like that's going as well, but here's another way I can go earn love.
100%.
So it's a lot of awareness, actually, to be in the middle of it and even recognize that, even if it's still only half the way there.
Exactly.
Or a third of the way there.
And all of us, we're evolving, right?
Absolutely.
It doesn't all happen at once, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes the destruction of your business, the destruction of your marriage, or the loss of your health or something, but it doesn't happen like that. It's been, progressive occurrence. So that was it for me. So I reinvented myself in Dallas. I'm a commercial photographer. I start working in the custom motorcycle industry.
Nice.
In Texas, which was really big. From there, I got into food and then people, and now I'm a nature photographer. But it was in 2008. I'm now in Dallas, Texas. And my best friend and I attended a success conference in Las Vegas. The speaker is on stage, and he puts on the screen a graphic of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And for those of you that don't know the work of Professor Maslow, he's a psychologist who came up with this theory that's very valid, that every human desires and is in pursuit of 7 different things, among them love, self-esteem, recognition, right? And so he put this chart up on the board and he said, everybody on this planet is looking for these things. He said, but if there's something on here that you're looking for, means you don't have it. Okay, that makes sense. And if you don't have it, how can you give it away? Was his question. Art, have you ever been hit by a bolt of lightning and all the adventures that you've gone on, hiking? No, walking along the edge of St. Andrews a couple of weeks ago. No lightning bolts? No? Well, I've never been hit by lightning either, at least not physically, but I know how it would feel.
One. Yeah.
That was one. Because in an instant, like a bolt of lightning hit me, I shot up out of my seat, and in front of 300 people, I said, "Are you effing kidding me?" And, 300 eyes look at me, including the speaker from the States, and what's going on here? Security. And so,
Cue security.
All my life, I've been looking for love. And you're telling me that the reason that I don't have it is because I've been looking for it. Is that right? He says, yes. And he said, look at it this way. If you had a friend that needed $100, and you only had $20 in your pocket, can you help your friend? No. Partially, maybe.
Yeah.
You can get a part with it.
But you can't give them 100.
But you can't give them 100 if you only have 20. And so it was like, it's hard to explain because it's like clarity.
Right. But how did you apply that? Because that's maybe how we can get the clarity for the audience. How did you apply that?
That comes here in a second. I didn't know what was happening, but I just felt this sense of clarity. It all became clear that everything that I had done up until that point in my life to pursue love was a big mistake, a mistake on my part, right? Because I needed to have love within, is what the speaker was telling me. I needed to love myself before I could expect love from the world.
Absolutely.
So whatever you want in the world, and I know that you teach this, give it away. If you want more money, give it away. If you want more relationships, more community, more love, more authenticity, be more authentic, be more loving, be more compassionate, be more understanding. The more that you give away whatever it is that you're seeking, you'll get it back tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold.
Absolutely.
Right?
There's two things I want to add here, Steve. It's a wonderful point, and it's so important. The first is, the basis of Christianity, right? The number one teaching that Jesus said, you can boil everything down to this, is love God, love your neighbor like yourself. So everyone thinks they should, go out, and love the neighbor, but they gotta have something to love from first.
Correct.
Right. So they have to have some love for yourself, and then you give that away.
Correct.
Right. And so it's, and then I think about, but it starts there, but then it is about giving away. If you want something more, to give it out, and then you get it back, by helping others, we feel helped. By teaching your friends in the Marine shower, you learned,
right? And
you get valedictorian, right? I remember hearing Neil Donald Walsh speak years ago.
Love Neil.
And what an interesting character. And he said very clearly, he said, whatever it is that you are praying for, be the answer to somebody else's prayers in that category.
Beautiful.
Right. Another way of saying the same thing, and this is a point I wanted to make even earlier in our conversation. You were talking about nothing's new. It's already been said before. And a lot of what comes up for me when I hear that is, yes, so then why should I make the effort? Because it's already been said before. I think, there's already Tony Robbins and Og Mandino and Steve Covey, and, there's all these, amazing, and Ryan Holiday, and, you go on and on and on, and Brene Brown, and accept that the people that can hear it from me, the people that can hear it from you, that's who they're meant to hear it from.
Correct.
So yeah, it's not new, but the way that you'll package it, or the way that I'll package it. So be active, be in service, be in, sharing what it is that your gifts are, because that's the people that are there are going to hear it from you, and they say, oh, this is what Steve said. Oh, it's the same thing that Marcus Aurelius said. It's the same thing that Jesus said. Yeah, that's right. But they heard it from you because you were saying it.
Correct. And more importantly, or just as important, I don't want to say more importantly, because that's right up there, equally as important is timing. Right? The timing of when we hear it, because we've heard these teachings from Jesus. If we read the Bible, if we go to church, if we listen to any pastor on TV, love thy neighbor as yourself. What does that really mean? Right?
Yeah,
I never really got a good explanation for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's only coming, to me, hearing that when I was a kid didn't make any sense. It's only going through the fires and experiencing it for myself. Reading Kamal Ravikant's Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It, because it does, right? And the journeys that I've been through. Now, when I read that message, I'm like, now it means something. But I have to come back to it. I didn't learn it the first time I read that. Exactly.
But the message has to match the timing.
Right? Absolutely.
Words, you have to be at the point in your life, or a lot of you listening are at the point of your life right now, where what I'm discussing with Art here is making sense and is hitting home.
That's right.
And we are having an impact, whereas you may have been to 1,000 Tony Robbins seminars. You may have read Og Mandino and Zig Ziglar's books, and Stephen Covey's and Brene Brown. You may have read all the books. But until you're at the point that you're ready to receive this, the teacher will appear, right? And in this case, it could be us, or it could be, you know what? They're cruising down the road right now, going from, Bentonville, Arkansas to Miami, Florida, and they're too busy having fun. And so they tune us out and, they listen to something else. It's all in timing. It's all in God's time.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by Transition Mastery Coaching. If you have made it to midlife and you're successful and you are going through transitions in your life, in your business, in your career, or in your organization, and you're looking to master those transitions, to make the most of them, to accelerate into the next phase of your organization or your life, if you're facing challenges in your business, challenges in your relationship, challenges in your health, and you really want to transition those quickly, I'm here to guide you for that. And I look forward to working with you. And you can sign up for either Pinnacle transition coaching, or summit, please go to lifeintransition.online/MLTM and scroll to see the summit and pinnacle coaching, or reach out to me directly on my email, art@artblanchford.com. And I look forward to connecting with you and helping you to accelerate your transitions to achieve what it is that you want to achieve in the second half in your organization and in your life, so you can live your whole life with no regrets.
Absolutely. Where do you think your life would have been if you haven't made this transition? I know that was a long time ago and maybe it would have ended. I don't know. But where do you think your life would have been if you have not had that strong, if you had not heard that strong voice to stay here, as well as to see that you had inherent value?
I've given this some thought, and I've said it many times to my wife. Had it not been for the things that I've experienced, negative and great things, you and I, babe, would not be here today, holding hands, having dinner, walking along the shoreline, dancing, kissing, loving, all the things that we love to do. We wouldn't.
That's right.
Because I would have been a different person. I would have, made different choices. So to answer your question, what would my life be like if I had made those transitions? I'd probably still look successful on the outside, but inside I'd be dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
That slow, spiritual, creative, emotional death. And I may not even know that I would have missed my calling, but I would have known something's amiss, right?
Yeah.
And this is, you hear this from the stories of nurses and healthcare providers that deal with people in hospice, and they talk to them and say, what was, if you had to do it all over again, or what are the 3 takeaways that you would give to someone else? And that's, the pain of regret, right? That I didn't do what I knew I should have done or what I felt I should have done. I took the safe course, or, it would have been very easy for me to stay in the practice of law because I was making money hand over fist.
Yeah.
I was living the high life in Los Angeles. I had open doors. I had red carpets,
Right.
parties to go to, Grammy Awards, all this stuff. I was in the midst of that.
Right.
Right. And I could have stayed there, but I didn't like the person I was then.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I wouldn't have met the woman that I'm married to today, Alethea, who's, I can't imagine my life without her.
Yeah.
Right. Certainly I'd have a bigger bank account, but my soul would have been bankrupt.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I was talking about this with a client recently that, we can't live without oxygen, but nobody lives to breathe. And we make that mistake, right? We make that mistake with money. Yes, in this world today, you can't live without money. But if you think you're living for money, which so many of us do, I did before. If you think you're living for money, your life doesn't have meaning and purpose, right? Because you need it, but it's not the reason for life. But many of us, I speak for myself, and I know many of you listening, this is what this podcast is all about, is to have the courage to reinvent yourself, to have the courage to be quiet and still, where you can hear the small voice, Steve, that saved your life when you were 16 and 17 years old.
Saved my life.
Where you can follow that small voice to change your career and go into photography and follow the path of becoming who you are and not just a bank account. Because it can look great. I mean, I'm the same way. Like if you look at my career in my mid 40s, late 40s, power, title, prestige, 360 on Delta. Most people don't know what that is. Above Diamond, they have a little private club every year. Big incomes, big houses, nice cars, the whole 9 yards. But I was also dying. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that's the way it has to be. You can do both and you can have all of it. It's perfectly fine. But don't have one at the expense of who you truly are.
Right.
Right. I just finished reading. You were talking about palliative care and people that dealing with people that are dying in hospice. I just finished reading Bronnie Ware's book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. where she talks about exactly that. And the number one regret is that we didn't have the courage to live the life true to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's what it is. Are we willing to keep reinventing ourselves, to keep growing, as you're saying, to keep expanding, to keep, dancing with life?
Exactly. Beautifully
because
said.
It's scary, but it also is and I'm dancing it right now. I mean, I'm right in the midst of that fear and that dance and the romance of it and the beauty of it and the exhilaration of it and the fear of it, like all mixed together at the same time. We were at this Modern Adult Academy, and my wife reconnected with a dream that she's had for 25 years, but then she's busy raising the kids and doing also other dreams that she had perfectly fine. But she's like, but if I do this, and what if it fails? I'm like, so what? Would you rather die having tried or die having regrets? Right. So the regrets of the dying, it's not that something that you did, like that doesn't come up, like the mistakes that you made. Right. It's what you didn't do. Right. So she's like, now she's on that path. I said, take the next step. Lion Tracker's Guide to Life. You don't need to find the lion. You find the track. 1 track, 2 tracks, 3 tracks. And if you keep doing that, if you keep your head down and find one next track, eventually you'll find the lion. Absolutely. But you really don't have any idea where the lion is until you put your head down and follow the track. If you try to look up and figure it out, you're never going to guess. Exactly. And that's what we do, and we get overwhelmed. So I don't know how that's going to go for her, and I'm incredibly excited to help her have that experience.
Well, good for you. She's fortunate to have someone like you that has not only been in the trenches, but has been on that side of having what most would consider everything, right? Yeah. In terms of money, prestige, title, the benefits, right? The rewards of life and, pursuing a life in the corporate world. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I want to share something really important about what you just said with your listeners, because a lot of them are caught up. They are right where you were, right where I was. I've got all the money in the world. I've got title, prestige. I've got employees. I've got cars. I've got houses. I've got, whatever. But something's gnawing inside. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not satisfied. Yet I'm ashamed of myself for not being satisfied, because look at all I've got. Right. And I feel guilty for wanting more, wanting something different, right? But that's not what it's about. And hopefully this will bring some clarity. If you're in that situation, if you're feeling that way, if you're listening to this program and you're thinking that you're wanting more from life, you're wanting more joy, more fulfillment, more happiness, more excitement, more adventure, is somehow wrong, and it's a departure from everything that you've created or what you've done to come to this point, it's not your fault. You have been programmed, we have been programmed
absolutely
by this society that we live in that tells us you're only worth your FICO score, the car you drive, the neighborhood you live in, the academic degree that you have, right? How many employees you have? Are you on the Inc. 500? Did you make the 30 under 30? Did you make the 20 under 20? Are you a TikTok influencer who's 15 years old, but you've got 1.5 billion followers, right? That's the world we live in that impresses upon us that you must become a success. And I'm here to tell you that there is no success. Nobody is a success, and nobody is a failure. You are not a failure, but nor are you a success.
You're a human being.
Success and failure are opposite sides of the same coin.
Right.
Success and failure is what we call the outcome of the events in our lives. That's it.
Right. And they don't matter too much, actually.
At all.
Well, I mean, to some extent, and some of it's grounded in good intentions, right? There was a time where if you didn't have a certain amount of success, you didn't eat. And that's a problem, right? But we've taken it, to the power of 1 million since then, right? To what we think has to be for success.
The mistake we made is identifying ourselves as a success or as a failure.
Right.
Think about the time that you got into a car accident. Have you ever been in a car accident, Art?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Did you walk away from that thinking, I'm such an accident?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
But yet, when your business venture went south, did you think, I'm such a failure?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably.
I'm useless. Yeah.
More than once. Yeah. I did it again. Right? You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Failure, if you intend to do something, like I intended to come on this show, that means I made the necessary preparations, the camera, the lights, the clothing. I took a shower. I did my hair, all of these things. Yeah, surprise, huh, Art, that I took a shower for you.
Damn, and we're not even in the same room together.
So I intended to come on this show, and I intended to have a great conversation and all of these wonderful things. If we achieve what we accomplished, and we'll only know that by the audience response after this program comes out, and they start filling your inbox with just accolades and saying, yay, thanks for introducing us to Steve and Art, go Art. Then we succeeded in our mission. But yet, if nobody responds, are we the failures? No.
No, not the way I see it today.
The event failed, right? Yeah. Maybe our message failed to land where we wanted it to land, but that doesn't make us either a success or a failure. Yeah. And so if you, listener, if you would simply cut those labels, right? Remove yourself from those labels. Cut them off your shirt just like you do from the back of your shirt. You know, that label that bothers you in the back of your T-shirt, and you go, let me just cut that out. Well, you can do that too with that label that you've pinned on yourself, success and failure, because it's not you. Those are just the events, the outcomes of the events in your life.
Yeah, and the outcomes that we don't control. We can show up, but we don't control the outcomes.
Indeed. And then finally, what I'd like to add is that we all are playing a story in our heads. Whenever we tell ourselves, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not this, I'm not that, I don't have, I do have, I want to be, I don't want to be, I can't, I can, all of these things, it's a narrative. It's a story going on in our heads, right? And this story repeats itself over and over and over and over again. And that story is what creates the conflict that we experience in our lives, right? So I want to ask you to do this when these stories play in your head and they make you uncomfortable, and you know they'll make you uncomfortable because you start just like it doesn't feel good.
Start spinning. Yeah,
it starts spinning. It's like, what? I'm confused. Or you start getting annoyed with people, or this doesn't taste good anymore. This doesn't feel good anymore. It's no longer fun. It's the story you're telling yourself. And so I want you to stop and ask this question. The most pivotal question you can probably ask yourself, and it's, who is telling this story? You might think, me, I'm the one telling the story. No. You're hearing it. You might be sharing it with other people, but who is telling the story? In other words, who's driving the story? Is it fear or is it truth?
Yeah.
Most of us, we're listening to these stories being narrated by fear. What if it doesn't work? What if it fails? Yeah. What if I don't make it? What if I lose all of my money? What if I ask the girl out and she tells me no? Right?
Yeah.
What if I
people
try
think I'm stupid? Yeah.
Exactly. What if I try this thing and I break my leg, or they laugh at me, or they throw me out of the room, or whatever? Right? That's fear.
Yep.
Right? Truth, on the other hand. Let truth take, and this is your truth, not mine, not Art's, not your neighbor's or your parents' truth, but truth. And you'll know it's truth because when you say it, when you express it, you'll feel it. You'll say, yes, this is me. I am whatever follows, right? I can be the next best business in the city. I can be a great parent. I can be a great business owner. I can be a great employee. I can be a great CEO, a great author, great speaker, great entertainer, whatever it is, right? And if that wells you up with energy, right? If you feel that wave cresting, kind of like you're on a surfboard, all of a sudden you're down level with the surface of the ocean, that wave comes and it lifts you up. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to live life, is on top of that wave.
Absolutely.
Because that's truth.
Let me ask you about that. So what transition is next for you? What is the next wave that's picking you up that you've been thinking about or been avoiding? Like you said, we never get there. It's about expanding awareness and stuff. What's the next wave for you? Or what's the wave that you've been feeling trying to lift you that maybe you've been resisting?
That's still being written. I can tell you that right now. Everything that I've done up to this point has been super exciting and amazing and fun, but I've yet to realize what I can accomplish in this world. I'm on the journey to what I believe is my next transition, which is I'm in the process of publishing a book called Unshackled for women that are ready to yell cut and write and direct their own stories. And that's being followed by a book called Unleashed for men who are ready to yell cut and write and direct their own stories. And it's I use the metaphor from the film and television industry and music industry that I'm so familiar with, where you have the director of this film. Take your favorite film, James Bond, Tom Cruise, whatever. And if the scene is not going according to their vision and desires, what do? They don't just let life unfold.
Yeah.
They yell, cut! And all the action stops. They call over the writer, the caterer, the costumers, the wardrobe, the actors, the screenwriter, and they say, I need this changed. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. I need you to do this. And you are fired, right? We need to become the directors of our lives rather than just the players, the actors in our stories. And it's usually somebody else's story that we're
living, not our own.
Exactly.
That's the same thing about, I was saying, living true to yourself, write your own story. So this is the next step in your story, is these two books that are coming out.
This is the next step.
This is the thing that's been pulling on you that you're now responding to.
That I've been working on. Exactly. That I've been working on for the last couple of years. And the books will be followed up by a 3-day live director's experience where you will work with me and other superstar coaches. Art, I would love to have you as one of my superstar coaches at one of these events. So we will need to talk about it.
I love being in the room where transformation happens.
Love it. When we meet in 10 days, because guys need transformation. They need guidance. They need help. And I think that, we can do some great things. So anyway, that's what I'm up to. That's what I'm working on. And that's what excites me.
So all of this, you have amazing stories, Steve, and thank you for sharing it, sharing one thread. I know there's many other branches, and I look forward to hearing some more over breakfast in Denver shortly. But if all this transition, if you look back over all the stuff you've done in your life, if you were to boil down to one tool, so we're speaking to the audience right now. People are going through transition. They're resisting it because they feel it's not safe. They're listening to the fear. They're not sure what's next. But they feel something's amiss, just like you talked about. If there's one tool you could give them where they could push the pause button right now on their phone, on their car, where they're listening to this and they could take action, what would that one tool, what would that action be?
What a great question. I'm going to give you a tool that's in the form of asking a question.
Perfect.
And this is because you don't need to go out and buy it. You don't need a subscription. Anything like that. And that question is, I think this is the most important question that any human being can ask themselves, Art, at any given moment in time. And that question is, are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? The question is, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the middle of a struggle, who am I? If you're in the middle of the most joyful moment in your life, who am I? Right? Because that'll make you stop and think, yay, is it really about me? Or do I want to be, right? Who am I? I am the person that makes this not about me, but let me make it about my employees. right? This award that our company just won, it's not about me, the CEO or the founder. Let me make it about my employees. And if you're middle of despair and struggle and challenges, and if you ask yourself, who am I? You get to answer that question. I recommend that you answer with, I'm a hero. I'm the victor. I'm invincible. I'm last man standing. I'm, the overcomer, right? But if you ask the question, who am I? I'm a loser. That's what you'll get. But asking that question will bring you that clarity in that moment, right?
So because to ask, who am I? Whatever is going on, good or bad, who am I?
Good or bad. You just stop and ask, who
does that experience, do you notice when you do that in your experience, does that also create, especially I think about if someone's in despair, right? If they're in a deep, dark place. Does that, which you've known, I've known in my life, does that create separation that I am not my depression, I am not my despair, I am not my anxiety, I am the one noticing that?
Well put.
Does it create that separation? Because when I think I am that, it feels like a hole I can't get out of.
Well put. I'd like to say that it creates awareness, because it only creates separation if you make the choice to separate, right? Because you can choose to be the thing, the struggle, the pain, the challenge, or you can choose to be the observer, right? But it still requires a choice. So it doesn't automatically create separation. Yeah. You need to create that separation by looking at it and say, who am I? This is what's happening. Who am I in relation to what's happening in my life right now? Right? That's the crux of the question. It's not just who am I? I'm a tree, no, nothing like that. Is who am I in relation to what's happening in my life right now? If you're going through divorce or, an addiction or whatever, who am I? Am I the person that is willing to accept this kind of behavior, right, from my significant other? Am I the person who's willing to be misled by whoever, my neighbor, my best friend, or my business partner? Or am I the person that is willing to be drawn in this negative environment, such as gambling, alcohol addiction, sex addiction, pornography addiction, whatever the case may be? Am I that person, or am I the person that can step aside and say, yeah, that's the old me. I don't want to be that person anymore. Yeah.
And the same thing in business decisions. If you're thinking about making an unethical decision, right? Who am I? Am I really that guy?
Right.
Am I that gal?
Right.
I think that's a really great point, because in the end of the day, it's much more important who we are than what we do, right? People talk about actions speak so much louder than words. Yes. Presence speaks so much louder than actions. Who are you, right? You can do two actions or the same action with two different intentions, two different presences, and have a completely different outcome. Right. So no, that's really beautiful, Steve. Thank you. So they're really, in any situation, remember who you are in that. And that makes it not personal. You realize it's not about you, whether it's feelings of depression or feelings of elation, either one. And that gives them space, which allows you to be present, allows some centeredness, allows to take life with equanimity as a whole, the ups and the downs, and to, dare I say, enjoy both of them, to be present with both of them. So that's a really beautiful tool and something that anybody can apply. Thank you. Steve, the last question. Where can people find out more about you? You have had such an interesting life. You're doing such great work. Where can they find out more about you?
Another great question. Art, you have been filled with excellent questions. I know that I can tell you've done this before, so thank you.
It's not my first rodeo, but I love it. I love the authentic conversations. I do.
Love it. The way to answer your question is, the first thing I'd like your audience to do, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get a hold of me, please contact Art Blanchard. first to thank him for producing this show and introducing you to people like me and all the other beautiful guests that he's had on the show that you've learned from, but that you've never taken the time to contact Art and thank him for hosting and producing this show, because it's very time consuming. It's very arduous work, and it looks beautiful as you're watching it and listening to it. But I know that there's a lot of detail that goes into it. A lot of moving pieces. So first of all, I want
to add one thing to that, to the listeners, while you're addressing the listeners. If there's somebody that you know that could really benefit from hearing this message today, forward the show to them right now. It's so easy from your phone to just hit the forward arrow. I had my brother, who I'm super close to, my older brother, do that with a podcast show the other day. That was so meaningful to me. And I felt really loved because he sees me. He got it that this would be a really good message for me. And he took the time to send it to me. It only takes 30 seconds and we think we're going to do it. But if there's somebody that you know that needs to hear this, share it with them. They'll feel loved. You'll feel like you've contributed, and it can make a really big difference for them. Like that show made a big difference to me that my brother sent to me.
Good job. Yeah. So anyway, so I want you to reach out to Art, thank him, and then you can ask him how to reach me, because he knows we're good buddies now. And for those of you that can't reach Art because he's too busy responding to the millions of people that are contacting him saying thank you and how do I get a hold of your friend Steve? But Art cannot give out my phone number. That's one thing, Art, you cannot. He won't give you my phone number, so I don't care. You can send him money, send him chocolate cake, everything he likes.
I'll take the money. I'm not a chocolate cake, but some nice avocados would be fantastic.
All the things he likes, but he's never going to give you my phone number. So for those of you that can't get a hold of me, Art, you can reach me on the internet at Facebook and Instagram is where I hang out. Stevie G Success. Also YouTube. Stevie G Success. I put a lot of content on YouTube. And then my website is also steviegsuccess.com. And go to the resources page. You don't have to sign up or give me your email or send me a check or anything like that. Just go to the resources page and you get a lot of access to audio programs that I've recorded for you that'll help you in a variety of things, whether you're trying to become a public speaker or a more effective communicator in your personal relationships, or even beyond that. There's stuff that you're going to enjoy and learn from.
Awesome, Steve. Well, thank you so much for showing up so fully today. It was an absolute pleasure. I love the conversation. I love the connection, and I love how you share so willingly and so usefully with our audience today. So thank you so much for joining us on Life in Transition podcast.
It's been my pleasure. And like we said early on in the show, we could just impact one or two people that are listening. We've made my day.
Awesome. I'm sure we have done at least that. So thanks a lot, Steve. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, brother. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye. I can't wait to hear what action you are taking. Connect with me on LinkedIn or our website, lifeintransition.online, and let me know. Let a friend know too. It could be a huge encouragement to them and keep you on the track. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and it would mean a lot to me if you left a review and shared this episode with a friend. If you want to learn more about me and what I do when I'm not podcasting, please visit me at artblanchford.com. Thank you for listening. Together, let's make the most of life in transition.